The story begins inside the Galactic Combat Academy, a massive space station that floats above a bright gas giant and is known across the Alliance as the hardest place to train future warriors, where only the strongest species are accepted and where fear is treated like a weakness to be cut away early. Humans are new to this place, and many of the older alien races do not trust them or believe they belong there. Elias Rourke, a young human cadet, stands alone in a large training hall surrounded by students from many alien species, all watching him closely with eyes that show doubt, curiosity, or quiet mockery. The instructor, Kazir, is a huge and terrifying Varnok warrior with stone-like skin and 4 powerful arms. A veteran of many wars who has seen countless soldiers fail, and he openly questions the human claim that adaptability is their greatest strength. To test this claim, Kazir orders Elias to perform a weapon demonstration. But at the same moment, the weapon rack seals shut, removing all advanced tools like blasters and plasma weapons, turning the challenge into a trap meant to expose human weakness. The room grows tense as alien cadets react with amusement or disbelief, expecting Elias to fail because without technology, most species are helpless. Elias feels fear and pressure rise inside him, knowing that this moment represents more than just a test. Because humans are still fighting for respect and survival among the stars, and failure here would confirm every insult spoken about his people. Instead of giving up, Elias looks around the room with calm focus, observing the simple objects that others see as useless, such as desks, chairs, cords, and metal supports. And this moment shows the core of human thinking, where the mind searches for solutions instead of excuses. He asks permission to use the environment, and when the instructor agrees with mocking confidence, Elias moves quickly, tearing metal rods from furniture, bending them with raw strength, tying polymer cords together, and shaping them into a simple bow, a weapon so old that many alien races consider it a forgotten toy of history. As he works, the room falls silent because the idea that a weapon can be made from nothing but scraps is unsettling, and Elias completes the bow with practiced hands, shaping arrows from broken metal and wrapping the grip with torn fabric so it will not slip. When he finally pulls the string back, the tension in the air becomes physical, and although Kazir calls the weapon primitive, there is a hint of curiosity in his voice. Elias releases the arrow, and it flies with deadly speed, piercing a combat drone across the room and destroying it instantly, shocking everyone present. Without stopping, Elias fires again and again, each shot precise and powerful until every drone lies broken, proving that human weapons do not need advanced technology to be effective, only understanding of force, motion, and survival. As Elias lowers the bow, breathing hard, the silence in the room is heavy with realization, because the aliens have just witnessed something deeply unsettling, a species that can turn scraps into death in seconds. Kazir, no longer mocking, acknowledges that humans remind the galaxy why some species survive extinction while others vanish, marking a moment of earned respect. Before anyone can speak further, the Academy is shaken by alarms and explosions as red lights flood the halls, and an emergency warning announces that an unknown hostile fleet is attacking the station, instantly turning the training ground into a battlefield. Panic spreads among the cadets as the walls tremble and distant impacts echo through the structure, making it clear that this is not a drill but a real invasion that could wipe out everyone inside. Elias looks down at the bow still in his hands, realizing that what began as a test has become preparation for war. And when the instructor asks if he can kill more than drones with such a weapon, Elias answers with quiet certainty, showing that fear has turned into resolve. As the lights fail and darkness spreads through the academy, the story closes with the beginning of open conflict, where the skills just proven will soon decide who lives and who dies, and humanity's place among the stars hangs on what comes next. The alarm had barely stopped echoing when the first wave of alien ships tore through the atmosphere around the Galactic Combat Academy, their hulls black and angular, bristling with weapons that could reduce entire cities to ash. The station rocked violently as impact after impact tore across its outer shields, sending sparks and debris flying through the corridors. Cadets scrambled for cover, some shouting in fear, others frozen in disbelief, while instructors barked orders that barely carried over the chaos. Elias Rourke stood in the middle of the hall, the bow in his hands feeling heavier now with the weight of real responsibility. He was no longer performing a test. He was fighting for survival, and the human instincts that had allowed him to craft a weapon from scraps would now be pushed to their limits. As drones and automated defenses activated across the academy, Elias realized that the attackers were not just one species, but a coalition of deadly raiders and war-hungry empires, united by a single goal: to wipe out the academy and any human presence they could find. The first alien boarding teams breached the outer doors, their claws and energy weapons sparking against the hall's metal walls. Elias fired arrow after arrow, each shot precise, each one finding a weak spot in armor or machinery, disabling the attackers in ways that left the aliens stunned. Despite being smaller and physically weaker, his speed, accuracy, and ingenuity made him a formidable threat, and the aliens began to realize that humans were not to be underestimated. Around him, other cadets struggled. Some froze in panic, others relied on conventional weapons that lacked the creativity that human instinct brought to combat. Elias ran through the corridors, using the environment like an extension of his body, leaping over fallen machinery, swinging from pipes, and making use of the Academy's narrow passageways to funnel enemies into kill zones. His arrows were modified on the spot, some tipped with shards of metal from the walls, others ignited with small plasma charges scavenged from destroyed drones, showing his ability to adapt in the heat of battle. Instructor Kazir moved alongside him, using his size and strength to shield cadets while also being impressed by Elias's cleverness, muttering that the human mind was a weapon as deadly as any blade. Outside, space battles raged, with the Academy's defensive cannons firing tirelessly at incoming ships, while human engineers inside repurposed training drones into makeshift interceptors, creating a chaotic but effective counterattack. Elias noticed the enemy ships were fast and coordinated, and the human ingenuity that went into improvising defenses was just enough to buy time. But it was clear the attackers were testing the Academy's limits, probing for weaknesses. At one point, Elias found himself in a small hangar where dozens of alien boarding troops were attempting to cut through the reinforced doors. He took a deep breath, pulled a few long rods from the walls, and fashioned a multi-shot bow with string tension adjusted precisely for rapid firing. With a single motion, he unleashed a volley that disabled half the attackers instantly, sending them flying across the hangar in sparks and twisted metal. The aliens were not used to opponents who could turn debris into deadly precision instruments, and every moment Elias fought, it became clear that human adaptability was more dangerous than brute strength or advanced technology. Amidst the chaos, Elias encountered a group of human cadets trapped under fallen beams, their path blocked by energy barriers. Without hesitation, he used his bow like a crowbar, bending metal rods to lever the debris while firing arrows that cut power lines and short-circuited the barriers. His calm under pressure inspired the others to move, to fight back, and to improvise their own tools, creating a chain reaction of human ingenuity across the halls of the Academy. The alien invaders regrouped, sending in heavier troops equipped with energy shields and powerful plasma rifles. Elias knew that brute force alone would not be enough, So he combined his knowledge of physics and trajectory, creating arrows that ricocheted off walls to strike enemies behind cover, turning the corridors into deadly traps. The screams and shouts of battle mixed with alarms and the hum of failing machinery, creating a symphony of chaos, yet Elias moved like a force of nature, his mind calculating angles, speed, and timing faster than the aliens could comprehend. At one point, he faced a massive alien brute twice his size, wielding a plasma axe that could crush a human in a single blow. The hall felt impossibly small, but Elias stayed calm. He drew his bow and shot a specially crafted arrow that struck the ground near the brute's feet, sending a metal shard into its armor joint. The brute staggered, and with quick thinking, Elias combined the environment and his weapon to disarm it, showing that human intelligence could overcome even overwhelming physical strength. As the battle extended into multiple halls and decks, cadets from other species began to notice Elias's effectiveness and started following his lead, trying to improvise and adapt instead of relying solely on their standard training. The tide of the battle slowly shifted, with human-led groups taking the initiative, using creativity, speed, and the willingness to take risks that many alien species considered reckless. Explosions ripped through sections of the station, and emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls, but Elias never wavered. He was exhausted, his arms burning from drawing the bow repeatedly, his mind constantly calculating, yet he understood that the survival of his friends and the academy depended on his continued effort. Instructor Kazir, watching from above, realized that humans were not just survivors but natural warriors in ways the Alliance had not yet appreciated, and he began to adjust his teaching methods on the fly, allowing improvisation and unconventional tactics. As the first enemy ships were destroyed or forced to retreat, the Academy had held, but the victory was only temporary. Elias knew the attackers would return stronger, and he understood that this was not just a test of skill, but a test of humanity's ability to stand against impossible odds. Cadets regrouped, tending to the wounded, and engineers patched shields while Elias restrung his bow and prepared for the next assault. Through the smoke and debris, he realized that the human way of thinking, adapting, improvising, using the environment, and never giving up was their greatest weapon, far more powerful than the most advanced technology the aliens relied on. The battle had shown everyone in the Academy that humans could turn the smallest chance into survival, the weakest scrap into deadly precision, and the smallest mind into a strategy that could outthink overwhelming force. Though the hallways were battered and alarms still blared, a sense of awe spread among the cadets and instructors alike, who now looked at the human differently, not as weak or primitive, but as a species whose resilience and cleverness could change the course of a battle. Elias, breathing heavily, glanced at the horizon of space visible through the shattered windows of the station, knowing that the true test was not yet over, and that the next fight would demand even more from him and his fellow humans, as the galaxy would soon learn that underestimating humanity was a mistake no one could afford to make. The stage was set for the climactic showdown, where strategy, courage, and the unbreakable human spirit would determine the fate of the Academy and the humans, who had just begun to prove themselves. The Academy had survived the first wave, but the threat looming outside was far from over. The unknown fleet had retreated only to regroup, their numbers larger and their weapons deadlier. The station's halls were scarred with smoke, twisted metal, and the echoes of screams, but inside, cadets and instructors alike were determined to fight back. Elias Rourke, still gripping his bow, moved through the wreckage with purpose, checking on wounded cadets and directing groups to reinforce vulnerable positions. Despite exhaustion, he felt a growing sense of resolve, a spark that burned brighter than fear. The humans had shown adaptability, creativity, and courage in the previous assault, but now the challenge was to survive against a coordinated enemy that expected them to fail. From the observation decks, Elias could see the alien fleet returning in a dark, menacing formation, their ships bristling with weapons that glowed like molten cores. The Academy's defenses fired relentlessly, but for every ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Cadets from other species looked to Elias and the humans for leadership, following his improvisation and quick thinking. The small teams he organized used hallways, traps, and makeshift barricades to channel the attackers, turning the station into a maze that favored clever minds over raw strength. Elias moved with remarkable speed, drawing arrows faster than the eye could follow, each one hitting vital systems, short-circuiting energy weapons, and destroying armored exosuits. His ability to adapt the environment into a weapon was unmatched, and even creatures several times his size were forced to retreat or fall under his skill. In one hall, he faced a group of towering alien brutes equipped with energy shields and enormous plasma clubs. Using a combination of angled shots, collapsing beams, and carefully timed ricochets, Elias struck precisely where the shields could not protect them, toppling one brute after another. Each victory inspired the cadets, who began to trust their instincts and experiment, creating a chain reaction of innovation and courage that turned the tide in localized battles. Outside, space battles raged on, and human engineers modified escape pods, drones, and even damaged ships to act as weapons, using debris and creative tactics to hit the fleet from unexpected angles. Elias coordinated strikes from inside the station, moving between decks, repairing barricades, and guiding teams through ambush with a calm authority that belied his youth. The attackers grew frustrated, underestimating humans at every turn, and began making reckless moves, which Elias exploited, turning desperation into opportunity. At one point, a massive alien command ship broke through the outer defenses, preparing to land a detachment that could overwhelm the station completely. Elias, realizing the gravity of the moment, rallied human cadets and a few allies from other species for a counterattack. They prepared explosives, rigged traps, and fashioned long-range weapons from every piece of debris available. Elias climbed to a vantage point high in the station, strung a reinforced bow with a corded tension system, and took aim at critical points on the command ship, firing arrows tipped with plasma charges scavenged from destroyed drones. The arrows struck with pinpoint accuracy, igniting engines and energy conduits, causing explosions that rocked the vessel and sent it spiraling out of control. Inside the station, cadets fought with renewed vigor, inspired by the precision and fearlessness of the human at the center of the chaos. Yet the battle was far from over. The enemy sent boarding teams directly into the central command hub where Elias and Kazir had taken position. Despite their differences, Instructor and Cadet fought side by side, combining raw strength and human ingenuity. Elias used every arrow, every tool, and every tactic at his disposal, improvising traps and directing cadets to channel attackers into kill zones. Injuries and fatigue weighed heavily on them, but no one could match the determination of humans, who were fighting not just for survival but for the recognition of their species. In a tense and desperate moment, the lead alien warlord breached the command deck, a towering figure with energy blades capable of cutting through steel. Elias faced it without hesitation, using a combination of clever feints, precise shots, and environmental traps. The warlord swung, missed, and found himself impaled on an improvised spike trap, his energy shield disabled by an earlier arrow strike. With its fall, the remaining alien attackers lost coordination, and human-led forces swept through, driving them back to their ships. Outside, the last enemy vessels retreated, damaged and demoralized, leaving the Academy battered but victorious. The corridors were quiet except for the hum of emergency systems and the groans of the wounded, and Elias stood in the middle of the hall, his bow worn and strings frayed, his body aching but his mind alert. Instructor Kazir approached, placing a massive hand on Elias's shoulder, a rare gesture of respect. "You have reminded the galaxy," he said, voice heavy with awe, "why humans endure where others fall. Strength alone is not enough. Your mind, your courage, your adaptability, these are weapons greater than any technology." The cadets looked at Elias not as a small human, but as a symbol of resilience, determination, and the potential of their species. Engineers began repairing the station, and human cadets helped organize efforts to tend to the wounded and rebuild defenses, showing that survival required both courage and cooperation. As the dust settled, Elias walked through the halls, observing the damage and the recovery. He realized that humanity had proven something important. Size, strength, or advanced weapons were not the ultimate measure of power. Ingenuity, courage, and the will to fight against impossible odds could turn weakness into advantage and scrap into a weapon of survival. The galaxy had seen humans in combat and knew now that underestimating them was a mistake, and Elias felt a deep sense of pride mixed with humility. The story closed with a quiet yet powerful moment. The Academy, though scarred, had endured. Cadets of all species looked to humans with newfound respect, and Elias, bow in hand, understood that the fight had forged not just a victory, but a reputation. A statement that humans belonged among the stars and that their ingenuity could shape the outcome of wars. The sacrifices made, the improvisation in the heat of battle, and the courage shown would be remembered, ensuring that humanity's place in the galaxy was secured not through size or firepower, but through the relentless spirit that refused to surrender. The final scene left a lasting impact. Humans, small but clever, had survived, had led, and had triumphed, proving that intelligence, bravery, and determination were forces no enemy could ignore. The war had tested them, shaped them, and ultimately celebrated their resilience, marking the beginning of a legacy that would echo across the stars for generations to come.